A serious incident has unfolded over the contested waters of the South China Sea, involving military aircraft from Australia and China. On October 19, 2025, an Australian P-8A Poseidon was conducting what it called routine maritime surveillance. During this mission, a Chinese Su-35 fighter jet flew dangerously close and released flares in the Australian plane's path. Australia's Department of Defence condemned the action as unsafe and unprofessional. Fortunately, the Australian crew was unharmed, and the aircraft undamaged. This event is part of a broader pattern of tense encounters between Australian and Chinese forces in the region. China continues to assert sweeping claims over the South China Sea, a vital global waterway with overlapping territorial disputes. The incident has escalated diplomatic tensions, with both governments issuing strong statements and blaming each other. At the heart of the dispute are fundamental differences over international law and territorial rights. The world is watching closely, as this clash could impact the future stability of the Indo-Pacific. This was not an isolated event, but a sign of growing risks as military forces operate in close proximity. The incident has become a major point of contention in the already complex relationship between Canberra and Beijing. Both sides are using the event to highlight their opposing views on sovereignty and international conduct. The situation underscores the delicate balance of power in the region. The potential for conflict remains real as nations navigate these contested waters and airspace. The outcome of this dispute could set a precedent for future interactions in the South China Sea. The world now waits to see how this will be resolved. Australia views the Chinese fighters' actions as a clear and unacceptable danger. The defense minister publicly condemned the maneuver, calling it reckless and unprofessional. Australia insists its P-8A Poseidon was operating in international airspace, fully within its legal rights. The mission was routine maritime surveillance, a standard practice for monitoring international waters. By publicizing the incident, Australia aims to hold China accountable and alert allies to the risks. The government has made it clear that such incidents will not deter future operations. The professionalism of the Australian crew was praised, but officials stressed that their personnel should not face such dangers. Australia's narrative contrasts its own conduct with what it calls the unprofessional actions of the Chinese pilot. This framing is designed to build international support and pressure China to act more responsibly. Australia's stance is firm. It will continue to uphold its rights and responsibilities in the region. The incident is being used to highlight China's aggressive military behavior. Australia is determined to maintain freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea. The government's response signals its commitment to international law. The world is watching how Australia and its allies will respond to future provocations. China's account of the incident is starkly different. Beijing claims the Australian aircraft intruded into its territorial airspace without approval. China frames the Australian flight as a violation of its sovereignty and a provocative act. The Chinese military justifies the Su-35's actions as necessary to warn and drive away an intruder. These claims are part of China's broader efforts to assert control over the South China Sea, despite international rejection of its expansive claims. China shifts blame onto Australia, portraying itself as defending its borders. Chinese officials accuse Australia of spreading false information and urge it to respect China's sovereignty. This rhetoric is aimed at both domestic and international audiences. The incident is used by China to legitimize its military presence in the region. The starkly different narratives highlight the deep divide over law and territory in the South China Sea. Each side accuses the other of provocation, fueling ongoing tensions. The dispute underscores the challenges of managing military encounters in contested areas. In response, Australia lodged a formal diplomatic protest with Beijing. This elevated the issue from a military encounter to a significant diplomatic dispute. Defense Minister Richard Marles publicly announced the protest, reinforcing Australia's strong objection. Australia seeks clearer communication to prevent future incidents and ensure military encounters don't escalate. The protest is part of a broader strategy to address China's assertive military posture in the Indo-Pacific. Australia emphasizes the need for clear rules and communication to avoid miscalculations. China dismissed the protest, reiterating its claim that Australia was at fault. The diplomatic back and forth highlights the deep rift between the two countries. Australia acts based on international law, while China relies on its expansive territorial claims. The failure to find common ground means tensions remain high and future incidents are likely. The diplomatic standoff underscores the risks of unresolved disputes in the region. Both sides remain entrenched in their positions. The lack of resolution keeps the risk of escalation alive. The world is left to hope for diplomatic solutions before another incident occurs. At the heart of the incident is a fundamental legal disagreement. Australia insists its aircraft was in international airspace, exercising freedom of overflight under international law. This right is guaranteed by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. China, however, claims the area as its own territorial airspace, based on its controversial 9-dash line. By declaring this vast area as sovereign, China demands foreign military aircraft seek its permission. This interpretation directly challenges the global consensus on international airspace. The dispute is a clash between established international law and China's regional ambitions. Australia and its allies operate under UNCLOS, while China often ignores its provisions. The legal ambiguity creates real-world risks. Militaries act on different assumptions, raising the chance of dangerous miscalculations. Pilots must make split-second decisions in a tense, uncertain environment. The lack of agreed rules increases the risk of escalation. This disagreement is the root cause of repeated confrontations in the South China Sea. The stakes are high for regional peace and global stability. This incident is part of a growing pattern of tense military encounters in the Indo-Pacific. Chinese forces have repeatedly engaged in actions described as aggressive or unsafe by Australia and its allies. These confrontations are not limited to the South China Sea, but extend across the region. China's strategy is to assert dominance and normalize its authority over contested waters. By challenging foreign military presence, China aims to deter operations by Australia, the US, and others. The risk of miscalculation and accidental conflict is rising. Australia remains committed to upholding international law and freedom of navigation. Other nations, including the US and Canada, have reported similar unsafe encounters with Chinese forces. The pattern suggests a deliberate policy by China to enforce its claims, even at the risk of confrontation. Each incident adds to regional instability. The Indo-Pacific is becoming increasingly dangerous as these encounters multiply. Australia has consistently emphasized its commitment to international law. All military operations, including the P-8A flight, are conducted in compliance with global conventions. Australia positions itself as a defender of the rules-based order, not just its own interests. The right to freedom of navigation and overflight is central to its stance. By continuing operations in the South China Sea, Australia rejects China's unilateral claims. Public statements and diplomatic protests reinforce the importance of international norms. Australia's actions are part of a broader coalition effort with allies like the US, Japan, and the UK. The goal is to prevent any single country from rewriting the rules of the world's oceans and skies. Australia's principled stand is vital for a free and open Indo-Pacific. The government believes clear rules and communication are essential for stability. Australia's leadership is crucial in upholding the global order in the region. Freedom of navigation and overflight is essential for global stability and prosperity. These rights keep the world's oceans and skies open for trade, security, and communication. The South China Sea is a critical artery for global commerce. If one country controlled passage, it would gain immense leverage over the world. For Australia, these principles are a matter of national security and economic survival. China's claims threaten these freedoms, prompting Australia to demonstrate and defend its rights. The issue has major military and strategic implications for all nations. By insisting on its rights, Australia helps maintain a balance of power that deters aggression. This is a contest between a rules-based order and unilateral power. The outcome will shape the future of the Indo-Pacific and the global system. The incident is a warning sign for peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. It highlights the ongoing strategic competition between the US and its allies and a more assertive China. Australia has made clear it will not be deterred from operating in the South China Sea. The risk of future incidents remains high unless clear protocols are established. Effective communication and de-escalation mechanisms are urgently needed. As military activity increases, so does the potential for miscalculation. Without mutual professionalism and respect for international rules, routine operations could escalate into crisis. The Australia-China relationship is at a critical juncture. How they manage this dispute will impact the region's security architecture. Careful diplomacy and dialogue are essential to avoid conflict. The stakes for the Indo-Pacific and the world could not be higher.